Hi, this is Al Caleo signing in from the Woodstock Playhouse, where we just finished watching Wildlike. We're right here with one of the writers and directors. Would you just tell the camera your name for us?
Yeah, Frank Hall Green.
Frank. So the movie is very moving, very emotional. I found myself at times being like, I felt like there was like a heavy thing weighing my heart. One of the issues that was talked about and expressed throughout was sexual abuse. I kind of wanted to know like why sexual abuse of all the issues, because like the Alaskan frontier, there's a lot of things out there. There's like there's a lot of mystery, there's a lot of unknown. I just want to know why you chose to connect sexual abuse with your film.
Right. Well, I think the issue overall is understated, and it's under publicized and under recognized. It's really at epidemic proportions. Especially if you talk about young girls and females across the board, I think some statistics say that something like 25% of women in their lifetime will be sexually abused in some way or another. So it became very clear to me that you couldn't put that message out there enough. And then taking that message and then turning it into a movie about healing, not just about the abuse, was, I think, very, very important, because giving the signal and giving the message of that you need to talk about it, and you also have to go through this very long recovery process, and connecting with other people is part of that process. And what better way to force two small people in this universe to connect than to put them in this massive landscape, which I think reflects on the idea of someone being freed from the pain that they have, as well as sort of the the idea of frontier and soiling innocence and frontier in the way that we do when we move to a new landscape. So they reflected off of each other very well, the issues.
I want to talk about the wildlife a little bit. Like, we see you guys experienced the bear.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you talked about that, how it was pretty intimidating. Hell, I'd be intimidated too. I want to know about other wildlife you may have encountered. Like, we saw a ram at one point. Like, did you ever maybe have an encounter with a moose that you guys were like, oh, yes, what do we do?
Yeah. Sadly, we had much more encounters with wildlife than are on camera. It started when we were prepping in Anchorage, and we saw a moose down at the bank in the middle of Anchorage, which happens, even though it's a pretty big city of about 200,000 people. And then on top of that, I went on a hike like the following morning, and I ran into a moose that almost charged me down. And then when we headed out of Anchorage, it just was wildlife all the time. I mean, fox, wolves, those are Dall sheep that you see in the movie that hang out all over the mountains, and lots of moose, several grizzly bears in the wild, black bears, black bear cubs, families of black bears. We had grizzly bears actually shut down the shooting when we're shooting the bus scene where Bart and Mackenzie get off of the bus. We had to stop filming because bears come within a quarter mile, and if the animals are aware of you, then you're too close. So we had a lot of wildlife encounters, not to mention like bald eagles and all the other little wonderful things you see there. But and we did film a scene also where Bart and Mackenzie drive up on a caribou herd, which is something that had happened to me in Alaska, and I really wanted to capture on film, but just fitting it into the movie and getting it all together didn't happen. So I would have loved to have had a couple more animals in the movie, but we had plenty of encounters. And I think on our Facebook page there's a lot of pictures of some of our wildlife encounters.
You really captured the scene of Alaska, and I recommend everyone to check out his film. And this is Al Caleo signing out at Woodstock Playhouse. Have a good night.